if you have been following our content, you know that we have a course starting on Monday. And this isn't just for people interested in the course. This is going to be general discussion around intuitive eating, fear of weight gain, and yeah, we want to just dig into some fears that people have. I think a lot of people are interested, whether it's in the course specifically or just in general around intuitive eating, or maybe you've encountered it as like mindful eating. And what does that mean? And a lot of what holds people back is that they're afraid without the rules of a diet that they will gain weight. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about that right off the bat.
Oh, that's the first one. We're going to dive right into that one.
Well, it is the title.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's like we were talking earlier and Justine said, it's ignoring the elephant in the room that yo-yo dieting causes weight gain. And it's a thing where you might lose a little bit of weight and then you're going to gain it back plus more. So we're just slowly gaining weight. So, it's just not working. So you have to reach a point where you're ready to take that risk, because what you're doing is making you so miserable, basically.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do want to point that out. When we look at the numbers around dieting, 95% of diets fail. So that means that 95% of people who are going to be going on a diet, it's not going to work out. Their chances are, just like Jen said, they're going to lose a little weight and then they're going to gain it back and then they're going to try again. And every time that they try again puts them, I don't like using the word at risk for weight gain, because that makes it sound like there's something like really horrible about it, and there isn't. But that is a reality, and it's just not talked about within diet culture. It's just skipped right over. And if you end up gaining weight, diet culture says, well, you just need to try harder. You just need to find a new diet. You just need to find the thing that works for you. And that is what is so harmful about the cycle.
And the cycling is harmful for your health, not necessarily the weight gain, but that Correct. Like up and down. And probably ending up at a place that maybe isn't like natural for your body, because I always ate very differently. Like I call it the fuckets, but when I was like not caring, it was a place of like scarcity. I knew those foods would be forbidden again at some point. So I just ate and ate and ate until I knew I'd get to a point where I was just so grossed out with myself that I would stop. So we're not talking about intuitive eating being that place. It's That's like a place point. Beyond that. And Justine has an awesome little visual.
Yeah. For that. So I came up with this really intricate diagram. And basically what I want to point out is that, so we have, this is what the diet cycle looks like on a graph, right? We have the restrictive part where we're on a diet, we're doing a cleanse, we're doing a lifestyle, we've cut out all carbs or whatever.
Not eating sugar. Yeah. Just important to recognize, like, not eating sugar could be considered a diet,
Yeah, any kind of food rules. Yeah. And so then when we lose it, right, when we're the 95% of people who cannot keep that up, right, this is what happens to our eating. It gets really chaotic, right? We're probably overeating. We're feeling out of control. We're feeling gross, right? Because we're probably eating past full a lot, with our tummies are upset, right? This is the in-between time that Jen is thinking about. And then we get so upset that we diet again, right? We're like, I don't know what to do, but I can't keep doing this. And so what Jen is saying is that a lot of people think this is what intuitive eating is. Mm-hmm. That the time between diets is like, well, I did try not dieting and look what happened, right? Mm-hmm. And that is not what intuitive eating is. So if you see this like line here, this kind of like wavy little line here, this is most likely where you'll end up with intuitive eating, right? You're not restricting, but you're also not out of control. Yeah. And your weight will eventually level off as well. The exception, of course, is like, as we age, we're going to gain weight or encountering a health issue or a life event, all of those things could affect our weight. But as far as food goes, So that's a really important point, because I know for me, that is exactly what happened. Before I found intuitive eating, I was like, oh my God, I was like a ship like out in a storm at sea, just could not regulate. Like I didn't know how to eat. I just did not know how to, I didn't know about my hunger. I didn't know about my fullness. And that is what intuitive eating offers. It is a like real framework for figuring those things out. Yeah.
Definitely. I was going to say something and now I forget what I was going to say. I hate when that happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Just adding on to the fear of weight gain, and something I mentioned earlier, just between Jen and I, that's important, and which is starting to educate ourselves around the systems that keep this belief intact and proliferating through our culture, so that, you know, there is systems of oppression that are creating these hierarchy of bodies, and understanding and educating ourselves around that, because we kind of are like, oh, this is just natural. It's natural to want to be thin. Like that's just how it is, right? It's like, no, that's not how it is. This is taught to us, and there is a reason why.
And it really like hurts people in marginalized groups as well. So when we think about like being allies, like one way to do that is to not support that system.
Correct.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people are at a place where they're willing to like respect women in bigger bodies, like getting on stage and dancing and do all those things, but still not feel like it's okay for them. Like there's still that ambivalence there with that.
Yes, a lot of ambivalence, and that's okay to like enter into this process with ambivalence. And I think that this segues nicely into another thing that we've been hearing from folks, which is, I'm interested in intuitive eating, but I'm not ready to give up weight loss pursuits. Like I still want to lose weight. Like, is this just not for me? And I would say that it is still for you. And I know I went into it, I wasn't like, I don't know, I still had my hopes for weight loss even when I first started intuitive eating. It wasn't like I was like pure of spirit or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think like it's ironic because it's like you can't really get to that place without starting intuitive eating, I think. So if you wait to get that place to start intuitive eating, you'll never start it.
You know what it reminds me of? I think you've mentioned this before, when we're trained, just like as personal trainers, a lot of people are like, oh my God, I would love to have a trainer. I definitely want to work with you. I'm just going to work out a little while before. And then like, I'm going to get in shape and then I'll come see you. I'm like, well, but isn't the whole point of you wanting a trainer? Because you can't, wait a minute. And then
I had the same thing happen. My sister-in-law was talking about piano because I was taking ukulele lessons. She's like, oh, I have to get good at the piano before I take lessons. I'm like, well, why not just have somebody help you right from the beginning?
This really segues into this like larger issue of the bootstrap mentality, hyper individualization of like, you should just be able to do it on your own, and reaching out for help or support is a sign of like, you don't have your shit together. You know, it's a sign of weakness. And that is very isolating for people. So people will opt to just be like, oh, I'll just read the intuitive eating book by myself. You know, and it's like,
you know, tons of people that have the book and have never opened it. And I do terrible with self-study stuff. Terrible. I definitely, and that kind of like goes into our whole thing about tendencies. Like so many of us need external accountability to do.
The majority of us need support, community, and accountability. It is very rare that somebody can just be like, I'm just going to do this thing that is like incredibly like massive mind shift. It's very, very rare.
And I think it also like gets into what the course is going to do, and just the idea that like we have principles that we're going to follow. We're going to do the first 8 principles of intuitive eating, and they're all set up in like a really logical order to help you like understand, you know, what weight loss is doing to your health and what the diet industry has done to us to like trick us into thinking that we need to lose weight. And just, it just kind of takes these steps, and each week we're going to go through one. We might stay on one for more than a week. And there'll just be some quick activities to do to help you with that. So it's not just like this kind of like, oh, we're just going to eat mindfully. We're going to have like concrete things to do. Just important that it's not another diet. So it's not like there's no wrong or right in it. And I think that's just like a great learning process to have patience with yourself and like shoot for a C instead of an A.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important point. And a bit of, I would say, if you're scared to try intuitive eating because of the fear of weight gain, can you kind of be present in the process and let go of the outcome a little bit and just see what happens? You can always go back to dieting. If you know what I mean? I mean, like you can you can explore this but ultimately it's up to you. You have body autonomy. So
that is what I was going to say before. Well, I think as I started to get closer and closer to wanting to stop dieting, the diets lasted less and less time. They got shorter and shorter. It was like by the end of it, it was like Tuesday. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. It was just like, so if you feel like you haven't had one of those times where you could dig in for 3 to 6 months in a really long time, it might be like a good sign that you're done.
Yeah, there's definitely like a thing for some, not everyone, but for a lot of people where it's like your body, I don't know if it's your body, your brain, whatever. It's just like not having it anymore. I got down to like starting a diet in the morning, and by like 11 in the morning, it was like, you're done. Like my body, like I just couldn't do it anymore.
I think for me, like I'm a questioner and I have to have a strong why when I do things. And I think my why was just starting to dissipate. Like I was starting to realize like, oh, food shouldn't be off limits. That doesn't make sense. That makes you eat more. Like moderation does make sense. And that like, it was like a slow, but I just didn't believe in it anymore. So I couldn't do it.
It's a great point. My big thing was like, and then what? Like, I just couldn't get over the question. I'm like, okay, I'm going to like cut out sugar. And then I'm like, yeah, but then what? Are you like never going to eat sugar? Like, then what happens though? Like once you lose the weight, then you have to keep doing that thing forever. Like this is not right. Exactly like you. I'm like, this is just the wheels were falling off of the car. Like this car, it was just like completely falling apart in my mind. Such a great point, Jen. So another question that's come up is, what if I miss a week? What if I have vacation planned? What if you've tried this kind of thing, but like, you're like, I've tried to be in groups, but whatever. And it's just like, I fall off the wagon and I can't do, whatever, this fear of lack of consistency. I think people have, which I can understand because that's part of the diet mentality, right? Like approaching this with a diet mentality is saying, I want to do it, but I don't think I can do it perfectly. So is it worth it?
Which and that's like a lesson we learn along the way with this, is that like it doesn't have to be perfect, and like part of it is there'll be mess ups along the way and just being okay with it. Like that's one of the biggest things. It's like my eating, I used to eat, like last night I had frozen pizza and I'll probably eat the whole pizza. That used to cause me like the feelings afterward of guilt and shame, and just changing that over to be like, that was delicious, and like moving on and not stressing about it. Like, so learning to do that, even if the actual behavior is the same, it's like how you feel about it changes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I mean, I think one of the biggest realizations in intuitive eating process for me was like, there's no wrong way for me to do this. It's my way, and like, no one knows what is best for me. No one can like dictate the perfect diet for me. It just that realization of like, I can't mess this up. Like this is, it's
and like, to have people remind you of that on a regular basis is helpful, because like we put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and I think women in particular, like, many of us are perfectionists. So
yeah, I don't mean to be what this is, but I mean, I do think that there's a big part of us, many of us are just like, I want to be like a good girl, like that's a big part of our socialization is being like good girls. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like that part of that is like eating right and being, dainty and being feminine. Not even gonna get into that one, but yeah, such a good point. So, and then also, so this also leads into group calls, right? So we've been getting questions like, hey, this sounds really great, but Monday nights don't work for me. So,
Well, we never shared when the group calls, like we're planning on them being Monday nights at 7, but we are open to changing that time depending on the group.
Exactly.
And then the other thing is we have a site, which is going to be the learning portal, and we'll put recordings of the calls on that. So there'll only be only people in the group will have access to the recording. So it's not like, there'll be other people watching them or anything. So if you miss it, you can just watch it on your own.
Yeah. Great point. And finally, scholarships. We've been getting questions around people who are interested in the course, but don't feel like they're in a place financially to pay $399 for anything. So if that is the case, we want you to reach out to us and we will work something out. So we don't want finances
to make this happen. So
yes.
And it can be like, can be hard to do that, but like, we totally want to help people. And we've had times where we wanted to participate in programs and not been able to because of the price. But there have been other times when like, we've talked to the person running the program, and like I remember there was one I didn't want to pay the full price up front, and I was like, hey, can I just split it? And they did it, and it was like, just working with you.
Exactly. Yeah. So please, if finances is what is standing in your way, please reach out to us. Either direct message us through Facebook if you have our number, text us, or email us, swollesistersworldwide@gmail.com, and we'll respond to you. Yeah, cool.
Did you want to show some of the site and the?
Oh yeah, thank you. I forgot about that. Oops. I raised my hand. Oh, lower my hand. That was weird. What's going on here? So this is an example of the checklist.
Yeah, so this is like one of the first homeworks for week 1, just to give you an idea of like, you can just read these and check them off. It's not going to take a ton of time, but it does help you think about ways that you're probably have a diet mentality, even if you're not dieting.
Mm-hmm. And the real digging in will come through community and discussion in the meetings and in the Facebook group. Yeah, we're not going to want to ask you to do a ton of stuff on your own because that takes a lot of energy to muster up. And we really want this to be as attainable as possible, doable as possible. Yeah, totally. All right, let's see if I can get out of here. Nice. And then what the, I'll get into the site too, so people can see what that looks like. Share screen.
Yeah, so just an idea of what the learning portal will look like. You'll have it there. We have a little bit of an introduction, and then each week the new material will come up.
Yeah.
And
we're very excited, clearly.
Yes, I had lots of fun in Canva.
So fun.
Yeah, so this is like reading wise, nothing, we don't want you to have to spend hours doing the reading. There's an activity to get started before we go. So yeah, that's kind of what the site will look like. And each week you'll get your new content. Sometimes, like on the before week 1, there's a YouTube video you can watch. It's just like a 13-minute YouTube video about fear setting. So we'll have a bunch of different materials, some podcast suggestions and things like that. So just, thinking of it as the opposite of what you've had all your life, which is like all of the diet information put on you. Now we're like, hey, let's give you like all of this content from the other point of view.
Totally. Yeah. And Jen is so good at keeping things
maybe too brief,
efficient and brief
to the
and
point.
bite size. So yeah, we will not overwhelm you.
And then it gives you time to delve deeper when we have the group calls, and we have a Facebook group. So if you have any like concerns or anything, you can put them in there.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, this hopefully was helpful to people. Again, regardless of if you are planning on joining the course or not, I hope this information helped out. Gave you some.
And then what signups run through till tomorrow night?
Tomorrow at midnight is the deadline to join.
Yeah, so if you've been thinking about it, this would be the time. We can put, when we're done with this, I'll put the link in the comments again. Once again, if you're financial issues and you want to talk about that, we're definitely open to different options. And yeah, we'll be back to some normal stuff in the Soul Sisters group next week.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Happy Saturday. Okay.